You are listening to Down Home. There is no more important person in our lives than teachers. Think back. I bet there's at least one teacher in your life that made a lasting impression. A teacher that kind of opened your eyes to a world that you had no idea existed. Or maybe they presented information in a way that you remember to this day. This week, Jay and I have a conversation with one of these educators, Rachael Myette, a teacher that has brought social advocacy to her classroom in a way that has made her popular among both students and parents.
Breaking new ground, breaking new ground, breaking new ground, simple breaking new ground, breaking new ground, breaking new ground, simple breaking new ground, breaking new ground, breaking new ground, simple breaking new ground, breaking new ground, breaking new ground, yeah. On a high plateau from the one down.
Welcome to Down Home, the Nova Scotian experience by two black men. I'm Derek Wise, and as always, we have Jay Jones.
What's happening?
And our guest this week is homegrown teacher from the Facts from Nova Scotia, Rachael Myette.
Hello,
Rachael,
thanks. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. How you doing?
Good, thanks for having me.
Thank you
what's
for giving
happening?
us the time.
Yeah.
Oh, before we start, two things. Tell us how you got into teaching, and also tell us what your connection is to a certain member of this Down Home podcast.
I will. So first teaching, let me just say, as a young girl, I think I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. I can remember my mom has, she kept a lot of my stuff, all of our projects and scribblers and things like that. And so one of the, something I did in grade 4, I remember says, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a teacher. And this is grade 4. So, I kind of always knew. And then I went off to high school. And, at that time, teaching was like, it was a standstill. There wasn't a lot of jobs. It was very, tight-knit sort of occupation to get into. So I remember my guidance counselor was like, no, you don't want to be a teacher. And I was like, no, but I do. Like, this is all I wanted to do my whole life. And he was just like, no, there's no jobs. So he said, pick something else.
Really?
And this is like, the career counseling that you go through with your grade 12 guidance counselor. I said, pick something else. I was like, because like I've known this all my life. So it was like, at that time, I was like, okay, a social worker. He kind of geared me in that direction. So then I went off to university. My whole degree was geared to social work. I then started doing case studies at Dal. I went to St. Mary's, but I started doing case studies at Dal and thought, no, this is not something I want to do at all.
Right. Yeah.
So then, it took me a couple of years to sort of finish my first degree, and then I kind of took a couple of years off. And then I was like, no, I really want to be a teacher. This is what I want to do. At the time I was working for the rec department. Derek, as you know, you did too. So working at the rec department for years. And so I was like, no, this is what I want to do. So then I went back and then geared my degree for education, because my whole St. Mary's degree was for social work. So then I had to go back and take courses to get into the education program. Yeah. So it was kind of like a roundabout way to get there.
Yeah. But you got there.
Wow. It's not about, it's the journey and the destination, right?
It is true. And how I know this guy, Jay Jones, on the panel, I think we met through friends, like back in our teens, right? I think we were late teens. Mm-hmm. And then it's just sort of traveled from there.
Cool. I'm still like, what's that? 40 years later? No, 30.
I don't know. I'm still the same age when Rachael met me.
Oh, sorry.
Exactly.
That was five years ago. Sorry.
Yeah, 5 years.
We're 19. Derek throwing that out. Like,
sorry. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Now, want you to talk about advocating for communities such as the LGBTQ plus ethnic minorities and children that might not come from tough economic situations, because it seems like you kind of do that through your teaching.
Oh, for sure. And, I think, my recreation background sort of led me to this, so some of the things I just want to say, first, I want to start off with one thing that I make very clear with all my students and to all adults I talk to. you know, and I think just speaks well to where I'm going to take this, but there's no such thing as different races. And I just want to say that as soon as my kids walk in that room, I want them to know right away that we are all one. We are all from the human race.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you know, the whole construct of race was man-made, and, you know, that whole history behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I try to just make it clear that students, you know, just to be connected to more with each other, because I work in a multicultural school, and, you know, as you know, Halifax, Nova Scotia is multicultural, or Halifax, I guess, Dartmouth type thing. But, and so I want, you know, them to know that this is, you know, the only thing that's different about us really is our cultures, right?
Yeah.
So we are one race, and then we have different cultures. And so
Mm-hmm.
within that culture, you know, there's all those different elements, right? So there's like customs, beliefs, values, traditions, food, music, art, you know, we can go on. And, you know, religion, spiritual beliefs, language. And so we all have that in common, because we all, you know, we all have beliefs. We all eat food. We all
Mm-hmm.
wear clothes. We all listen to music of some sort. We all, you know, maybe different food. It might be
Mm-hmm.
different music. It might be a different language that we speak, but we all connect in that way. So that's just the first thing I think that I advocate, you know, for. That's just one thing to say, that, you know, we're all from that one particular, you know, we're all that one connection, you know. And then so my, you know, point of trying to make with children is that, you know, we you know, I want to change their mind frame right away. So they walk into my room, we are all one. That's what I want you to know. We're
Yeah.
all, you know, we're all similar. We all share human qualities, you know, and not to take away from the differences that we do have, because, you know, I want to celebrate those and cherish those as well. But, you know, I want children to be connected,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and stop focusing on the differences,
Yeah.
and, you know, see more how we are connected as one versus all these, you know.
Now I can see how the children, because children are very malleable. They're very they kind of they're like water. They fit into the situations that they're put into, right? And if they're fit
Exactly.
into positive situations, they fit into that. If they're
It's
fit in,
true.
they get along in negative situations because that's what they have to deal with, right?
Exactly.
Now, my question is, how do their parents kind of mold to your teaching style and
Right.
your inclusive teaching style?
Yes, yeah. As far as I know, it seems to be fine. You know, I never really had any issues. I mean, I'm very open. I'm very, you know, I communicate weekly with parents. I'm the kind of teacher that, you know, and I'm not all teachers are like this, but every Friday, you know, I send out an email describing everything we've done all week. So it's called
Mm-hmm.
Friday Recaps. And I go through every single subject and everything we talked about. I mean, it's not extremely in detail. It's about a page long. And, you know, and I have parents who comment to say, thank you. You know, I'm happy you're doing this. Thank you for teaching our child about sexuality. It's a hard topic to have at home. Or, do you know what I mean? Like, we have those small conversations. No one's ever come to me and said, you know, anything about, you know, this is not the way I teach my children. We are different races, blah, blah. You know, that's
Mm-hmm.
not, you know, I think most parents, you know, are pretty open to that. I know, you know, there is some, you know, some cultures that are not really down with the LGBTQ, you know, so
Yeah.
we do have some conversations around that, which is kind of difficult, you know, where,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they don't want certain things being taught, but it's part of the, you know, Halifax curriculum, and it gets taught, and we just let them know, sorry, you know, this is what's going to happen. So deal with it. No, you know, no, you know, no, mostly, you know, 99% of the time it's all on the up and up. And like I said, the only conversations I've ever had was really around the LGBTQ. For some
Yeah.
cultures, they don't want that to be taught, but we do anyway. So
Yeah.
you know, this is the curriculum.
And this is a bit off topic, but you know, as some of you may know, Derek and I were in Halifax about a month ago, and Rachel and I are very good friends. We've been friends for a long time, and I got in the habit of going for dog walks with her and her two dogs. And whenever we saw other parents in the neighborhood walking their dogs, they would stop, and the person who was walking their dog would say, "Oh, my child wants to be in your class next year," and everything like that. So she's got a good you have a great reputation, and I think you make every child feel at ease, and so it's no wonder why you're so popular. But yeah, it was like, man, all the parents are like, oh, my kid wants to be in your class, and can you make it happen for me, mommy or daddy or whatever?
Yeah.
So there you go. So
Yeah.
anyway, I just thought you should know that.
Nice little plug. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, it is true. And I think, I try to think about what it is. One, I'm real, right? I'm very real. I come at them, I talk on their levels. I don't talk at them like a teacher. I sort of have this recreation feel, like, I don't know if you've had a rec lead or that sort of thing. That's where I am, I let some more student led teaching, I let them do a lot of the teaching and the learning. I also make it a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And, and I do through humor. I crack jokes all the time. I tell them stories all the time. A big thing too for kids is like, you need to make a connection.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what I'm teaching them, what you're doing, you need to make a connection. And that is first and foremost. You can't teach them anything if that child doesn't like you.
Yeah.
If that child doesn't see you in some way, if that child doesn't feel like he can take risks in your room, or, he can let his guard down, or she can, feel free to say anything, like you're never going to have that if you don't build a connection first. So,
Mm-hmm.
And the school board really, like, it's mandated, sort of, well, not mandated, but it's encouraged that you do that.
Yeah.
For the first month, like, yes, of course, we still have to cover outcomes and that, but that's kind of secondary.
Yeah.
In the first month, it's all about building relationships. I do a lot of fun things. I'll give you an example of, and one thing I do right away is the first project off the gate is a culture project.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, they have to, like I said, they have to, a couple of things they have to do is, one, they have to, I ask them, we brainstorm, how can I bring your culture into our room?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So kids right away, they start thinking, I'm like, go search. Well, how can we make this room feel like you are represented here? And so things like, I'll give you examples of over the years, we've done things like we've created flags, and I make them make the flags. I might print off a template, but they got to color them, cut them out, do all that. So we make flags for all the countries they're born in. We make flags like in Nova Scotia, the African Nova Scotia flag. We put up the Mi'kmaq flag. We put up all of the LGBT. That's a lie. We don't do all the LGBT because there's like, I don't know how many flags. Maybe there's quite a bit. I think someone's telling me like maybe 100, but there's a lot of flags. But we put up as many as we can make of the LGBTQ flags. That's one thing. Another thing, we'll do things like in our room, I have a map always, and they'll put pins into all the countries where they're from and have their names tags off of it.
Mm-hmm.
I have hello written in greetings from all languages. Like, not all, that's a lie. I can't come with saying all. About 50 different languages from around the world. I'll have those all up in my room. Some of the things they do a culture project where they have several things they have to answer. They put in a presentation, a Google presentation, they present it to the class. So each person gets to learn about each other's culture. And then I print those off. And then they have to create, with all the images, they have to create a poster.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really special about this, I like to share, is that I want to put them up on the wall. I'll just watch them, and you'll see students over there like talking and pointing and, like, telling each other about this and that and whatever. And it's just really special to see that, like, that's on their own.
Yeah.
They're over there and they're often over at those posters for a while. So that's just some of the things we do. We bring in cloth from different parts of the world. I have like kente cloth up, and I have East Indian cloth up. And so we have that around the room. Like, we really do make it so that they feel this is their room.
Mm-hmm.
They can let their guard down. They can be themselves, and they can, just take risks,
Yeah.
That's good, because noticing on our trip, there's been an influx of more immigration in Halifax, so makes it even more culturally diverse. So learning about your culture, so everyone can learn about your culture, is a good thing, as well as how it connects us. And so what you're doing is really good, because in this day of social media and everything like that, other than school, sometimes kids don't seem as connected as we once were.
No, and I don't, and even though we may have been connected, I don't think I really knew more. I mean, personally, where I grew up, I did, get to learn about different cultures, but a lot of children, that especially when we were younger, and maybe some now, don't really get to know about other people's cultures. And like you said, you might see it on YouTube, but you're not experiencing it in a way that child sitting right next to you is telling you, what, or listening to the music, or, eating food. Cause, like, I'll tell you, that's another thing I do that the kids love. Kids love food. even if
Yeah.
it's food that they think is gross or different or sour or hot, whatever. I every second Tuesday, and I started this a couple years ago, and I think that's another reason why kids want to get in my room. Because I feed them, but no, seriously though, it's called Taste Test Thursdays, and every Thursday every second Thursday, I bring in some type of food from around the world, and I make sure I touch on every single culture in my room. So, some examples of that would be like cayenne peppers.
Yeah.
I brought in. I'll just give you an example of the food, and then I'll tell you what we do with it, other than eat it. We had plantains. Avocados, and then we had guacamole, even camel milk chocolate. Like my husband works in Saudi Arabia, so he brings over this chocolate bars that are made with camel milk instead of cow milk.
Oh, wow.
And they try that. They've tried eggplant, like the list goes on. I've even brought in sushi. I've brought in, like just goes on and on. Asian pears, like whatever. So they try it, and then they have to do a little mini research project, and there's questions. And some of those questions will be like, where's this food grown? What is it used for culturally? Is there any kind of traditions that it's used for? Or, ceremonies? Is it like medicine, or is it, that type of thing? They then have to talk, about is there anything unique about this culture you want to share, or a fun fact that you found, or, where's it located? Where's the country located? Why is it grown there? What's the geographical location? That kind of thing. They put it together in PowerPoints, and then we present them.
Wow.
And then, and this happens every second Thursday. So, or whatever day it's going to be next year, I don't know, but, and so they love it. They love it though, because they're trying different foods. They're learning about different cultures. It's all being connected. Yeah.
Well, that type of experiential learning is,
has to be.
It's not how we were taught, unfortunately,
No.
but, it's good to hear that, because even in this day and age, you don't get a lot of experiential learning, but to bring that into your classroom, these kids are going to remember that in grades going forward. And hopefully that's something that other teachers are hearing that you're doing and bringing into their class, because the more experiential learning that we have, the better for the kids, definitely. So you obviously have a very strong passion for inclusivity and like we said, experiential learning. That's a great form of activism. Where do you think that was inspired from? And was it maybe the neighborhood you grew up in, or?
Oh, 100%, and like I said, the neighborhood I grew up in, I'll give you a little background. I grew up in, it was formerly called Greystone, which was, public housing. It was a multicultural community. It's now, used to be called it's called Greystone now. It used to be called Carson Street in Spryfield, right. Public housing, and what comes along with public housing, financial, some financial struggles, right? So, I had that background. Not only was it rich, even though we were poor, quote unquote, we were rich with experiences. Like I said, I got to experience many different cultures. I had a good friend who was from, East India, or she was East Indian. And she, I remember going over to her house, and the smells that were coming out of her kitchen, I was just like, can I eat here, please? Like, somebody feed me, and like her, and her mother would feed me. And I remember just eating this different food that was so flavorful, and I remember experiences like, my another good friend of mine, she was an African Nova Scotian and family, and I remember just being at her house one time, and she goes, hey, want to make some ghetto candy? And I was like, ghetto candy? I was like, what's ghetto candy? And like right away I was like, definitely a yes, like, hello. Candy, I'm having it. And and she poured butter, she's frying butter up in a frying pan, and then she's pouring sugar on it, and it's solidified. And I was just like, wow, this is so, I was just like, I'm going home to make this at my house. Like, so like some of those little experiences. Another one, I could think of so many, but like I live next door to another, an African Nova Scotia family. And like on Sundays, very spiritual family. And on Sundays, their mother just blared gospel music. Like you could hear it all through the community. And, and it was really like, uplifting, fun gospel music, and not anything that I was listening to, in my home. So that was an experience, like just music alone, really. Right next door to me was Newfoundlander family, family from Newfoundland, and they had their music going, and it's just different flavor. Right. Like, I just remember hearing me rubber boots on, like, just, like just different, right? And like even like my household music was things like my dad was into the Beatles and, Steve Miller Band and Elvis. And my mom was more like AC/DC, ZZ Top. And of course I was all pop music, I was Michael Jackson, Madonna, but like when I'm going over to my friend's house, her parents would listen to things like, Al Green and like, Bill Withers and like Donna Summers and like all this other flavor of music that I was getting, so
Yeah.
it was definitely well-rounded in that way. So I feel like that definitely impacted who I became and, what I do for sure. 100%, and, really taught me the value of $1 as well.
Oh yeah.
You
Definitely.
know, growing up like that, growing up with not a lot. Right.
Yeah.
But, some of the other things back to like advocating. Oh, just one sec here. Someone's coming to visit us.
Who is that? Show us.
Is that Fozzie or Banksy?
Banksy. Banksy's coming to say hello.
Hey, Banksy.
Oh
I don't think
God.
Banksy can hear you.
No, he's
We
gonna try to
became
say
good
he'll lay
friends,
down.
though.
Right? Yeah, he was all over Jason, trying to give you as much love as he could. He's a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah.
Some of the other things, like I advocate, especially for my position, my job, I part of a culture community, where I'm a group of teachers. We're in there and we do lots of things for the school. We run all kinds of stuff. I create bulletin board displays every month. That I took that on. With my art background, that's my strength. So it's all about bringing awareness, to the school and every different culture and every different, I know we focus on the heritage months. I try not to, I teach it all year long and all through history, but, we do celebrate those months as well. And so that is up with a representation, and we do that through bulletin board art displays, other such things I've done is like, food drives, and I started an LGBT, and like, it's changed. It's 2SLGBTQQIPA or PIA plus. Yeah, it's been changing, and I think there's even a newer one now since that one. But I started a club, and lunchtimes, and we did things like we made buttons for pronoun buttons for teachers and students. We started that. We made washroom signs for gender neutral washrooms. We created like a list posters with pride events, so we, there's tons of stuff I'm doing, advocating in school for sure, Yeah.
So with these implemented plans to sort of, bring your activism to the table and make these kids aware of what's going on in the world, how does that make the kids feel? Like, do they become more empowered and learning from each other?
I feel like they, I feel like they do. And like I said, just an example of just going over and, pointing to the posters and asking questions and learning and trying the new foods, that kind of stuff. I also, another example I did in, was, it was for global, like, I try to connect a lot of the subjects together. So I'll put social studies and art and English together. And one of them was Global Read Aloud Day, happens every year. And I had my students volunteer who wanted to volunteer. I've never forced anyone to get up and read because I didn't like that when I was a kid. But I know we had to, remember, we were forced to kind of stand and read in front of the class. I won't force anyone, but
I loved it.
Did you, Jay? That's awesome.
I was always up there.
Jay always likes an audience, though.
Well, that's awesome.
True.
I mean, I'm all about an audience too, but I just definitely was embarrassed. Like, I don't think I had the best reading skills, and I was always so embarrassed if I came across a word I didn't know, so like, no, I was not into it. And I tell my students that all the time. I'm like, listen, I was not one for doing that. I said, but look what I do now. I'm up standing in front of you guys talking all day. And I even when I'm reading to them, I tell them I may come across a word I don't know, and I might need your help, I might need your help. Or even sometimes I'm on the board and I'm writing and I don't know how to spell a word, or I forget how to spell a word. I did have a really bad concussion 5 years ago, which caused me to, lose, some memory. But, they're up there helping me, telling me how to spell it, helping me along. So, we all work together. But one example of the Global Read Aloud is I had them read the book, The Children of Atherville by Christine Weldon. You guys probably know the book. And so they each read it to each other.
Wow.
So like they got up in front of the class and they read the story piece by piece by piece. And sorry, that's me. They piece by piece by piece. And, and then once we were done reading that story, I had our African Nova Scotian support worker come on in, Mr. Brown, and he spoke with the children and, his experiences and talked about, the community and, how it was, a tight-knit community and everyone helped each other. And it was really good that, they went from reading it in a book to actually experiencing it or, hearing it in real life and making that connection, right, between the two.
So African Nova Scotian support workers, that's something that is in every school?
It is, yeah.
Really?
And it is new because it wasn't when we were there, right?
No, definitely.
Yeah, no, I don't know when it started. I can't really remember. Quite a few years ago, though. I mean,
yeah,
if I go back, it might have been even 8 years ago, even more. Where each school, not each school, it's schools that have a certain population of African Nova Scotia students.
Yeah.
And they also have Indigenous or Mi'kmaq representatives as well for schools that have schools that have a higher population. They also have, because now we have a huge influx of students from with an Arabic background, so speak Arabic. So they we also have they're YMCA representatives, and they come in as well. So we have support workers there as well. So we have both a YMCA worker and a African Nova Scotia support worker at our school.
Wow.
And it's really great. I think kids, it's another way to bring representation into the school because, as you know, there's not a lot of, Black teachers. And, and I think there was a push a few years ago to try and recruit teachers, of different ethnicities. Yeah. People of color. They wanted, different people of color. And so there was a push. And I just know that, that it's a way to bring representation into the school and for students to have someone that they feel, connected to visually. And, so that, it's really good because, he's awesome. So he goes around from different class to class and, supports and helps students that need that. So, yeah.
Oh, good for the Halifax School Board.
Cool.
Yeah.
Not doing anything like that up here in Toronto.
Not at all.
Oh, really? Really?
No. And my kids have gone through K all through up to 12. And there was no type of now there was clubs depending on the school that we were in. Right. But there weren't any type of specific ethnic minority support person.
Yeah. Oh, that's the shame. Because I mean, as you know, we don't have a lot of representation of people of color, and we can get into that whole reason as to why, right? We know that it's systemic and it's trickling down. Hopefully, that's changing. I mean, I am hopeful, and I do think that there is, some change taking place. I also know that, there's been a real focus actually on African Nova Scotian and Indigenous students. And, there's been PD. I've had PD. I've gone to see guest speakers that have come to speak to us about cultural responsive teaching and microaggression, so it's happening and it's in our schools and we're being taught, so there is a real focus on it.
And PD is personal development.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah. Professional development. So there's been quite a bit of it. Yeah. And, and schools are being accounted, they're being have to be accountable for what they're doing within their school to make this happen.
That's very encouraging.
Yeah.
So that all sounds encouraging to bring cultural awareness. Now, what do you do as a teacher? Can you develop your own lessons plans surrounding those things? Or
definitely. Yeah.
Oh, really?
And so for me, I mean, we have a set of outcomes that we're being taught. We have a set of outcomes we have to follow, but it's pretty wide open that we can do, whatever's we want. There's suggestions and things like that. But I think as it comes to culture, there needs to be, I think, more for some of the teachers that don't have that background or don't have that passion or know-how or whatever. I think there needs to be more, which I think is actually in the works right now, being developed. But for me, everything I do is through culture, right? Because even for me as my art background, kids love art, by the way, but like art background, I filter that into everything I do. And what is art? Art is culture. So,
Mhm.
it's just everything I do. Everything I do revolves around culture. There's so many examples of things I could give you. I mean, I'll give you a few if you want some.
Yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, like just one example of not only so for African Nova Scotian, I'll give them a list of people, and the students have to choose a person. They have to, so I fuse that with social studies and English. They have to write a biography.
Mhm.
And in that biography, they do a lot of research, write a biography. They then have to present these biographies. They then have to, we've also record them. We put them into an assembly. We did virtual assemblies the last couple of years, as you know, for COVID. So we did virtual assemblies. We had to record all that. We created videos for this assembly. We then put them up in a display in the school. So that's one thing I do this every year. We do that for not only just African Nova Scotian, but we also do that for Asian heritage. We do that for Gaelic. We do that for Mi'kmaq. We do that for East Indian. So we do several different things. And, another one we did, I love this one. I love them all, but I was teaching them about, the communities that are without clean running water.
Right.
Right. And and we talked about, like our sustainable development goals and that sort of thing, and how it's a right for everyone around the world to have, clean drinking water. And as we know, that's not the case, especially here in our own country.
Yeah.
So we focused on our country, and so we wrote persuasive letters. I taught them how to write persuasive letters.
Wow.
And then we wrote persuasive letters. They had to learn the difference between fact and opinion. They had to write these letters based on facts. So we had to do lots of research on Justin Trudeau and his promises and what's going on with these different communities. And we put them in letters, and each student wrote a letter, and we mailed them to Justin Trudeau.
Oh, awesome.
Wow.
So
Excellent.
yeah. And we did get a response. And it was just a thank you for your concern type of response.
Yeah.
But, probably he might have even read the letters. I don't know, but maybe his secretary or whoever. But, we did get a response. At least they know that, there are children out there that are just as passionate,
Yeah.
And I'm creating these little activists,
Yeah.
That's what I want. I want people to think about it, think outside of themselves.
Yeah, of course.
That's what I want.
What are the age ranges of your students?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I'm grade 6. So they go from 11 to 12. Ages,
Now, since
So
you
they're-
create such a sort of open environment, do any discussions ever come up with, some of these sort of racial things or cultural things that are
for
happening in the
sure.
world? That
Everything. Yeah, everything that happens, we talk about it. The shootings that happen, George Floyd, when we talked about the war in Ukraine, everything. It's a topic of conversation almost daily, where we have just like free, open conversations and like, what can we do about it? What are some things we can do? So we'll take on, we can't take on everything. We focus on a few things, and then what can we do about it? And so, for Black Lives Matter, we created, and like I said, art is my strength, and bringing awareness. So we created bulletin boards all around the school. We found books that are all about, teachings of Black excellence and, Black history. And so we made a big, huge display, and, it was really cool because we said, words have power. And then we had all these different displays of the books. There was one thing we did, stuff like that's kind of the things we are doing. Other than if we're not writing letters, we're creating a display for everyone to be a part of, or these assemblies that we want every class to listen to, because we don't, and I don't think many teachers are doing this. And I know that, we're not focused on Martin Luther King. Like that's not where we are. We are, encouraged or meant to be teaching them about what's happening here in our own community, in our own province, and in our own country. So teachers are doing that. I can't say every teacher, or I can't speak for all, but I do know my crew, people I know, that's what we do. So that's bringing it home.
Yeah, that's important because
it's very important.
A lot of this history isn't known. You know what I mean? So you get the kids when they're young and start implementing these programs, these ideas, these thoughts, these open discussions about what's going on in the world, so they can, every just like our generation, we learned from the past, and it was their hope for us to make the world a better place. And sort of sounds like you're doing that exact same thing, bringing that light to the world.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And it's daily, and it's in every subject, and I can infuse it in any way, in every way that I can, I do.
That's
so
good. It is a daily struggle. So it's the only way we make these things better is by having these things on the daily,
Yeah.
so they don't get lost by the wayside.
True.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. Yeah. There's quite a few things, that we need to do, because we need to be talking about it.
Yeah.
We need to be aware. We need to talk about it. We need to have these uncomfortable conversations, and, we need to do something about it.
Yeah.
And, and the people to do something about it, are the people who, who are getting it all, like white people, we do have all these, we are fortunate. And so, and I feel like what we need to do is stop, being blind to what's happening. And, we the ones that need to stand up, speak up, and do something about it. Stop being complacent. Like we are part of the problem when we're just ignoring it. When it's too uncomfortable for us. Okay, well, no, but that's the issue. Right. So, and another thing I'll tell you really quickly. I started a book club at my school for teachers. And and the first book, we have a second one coming up, but the first book was White Fragility.
Yeah.
And, I had 5 teachers join on. I had a few teachers that were reading it, privately. And, we had we were having those uncomfortable conversations, we were learning about, how, that society is really sort of framed to have white people not be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
With talks of race, or not be uncomfortable with race, with, racism. So, and that book's a really good book. It broke it down.
How was the response amongst that reading group to that particular book?
Exactly. People were open. People were very open to it. And one teacher I remember, she said, let's take this really slow. Like there's a lot to unpack here. Let's just let's not whiz through this. Let's really take this slow. So like, it might take us it took us a couple of sessions to talk about, maybe one part of a chapter.
Yeah.
And we shared experiences, and we talked about, how do we notice this? What do we do? Like that we came up with like suggestions on how we can try to make this better. How can we make this better within our school, within ourselves, like within our own home life, like within our friends, that sort of thing, and it's true. People are uncomfortable, but that's the point. That's the point, right?
Well, given how open, as you said, your teaching crew is to learning, because that's basically what that is. You're learning some things that you're unlearning, some things that you've been taught throughout your life that aren't quite ethnically sensitive, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Given that fact, are you surprised at some of the things that are coming out of the States in certain areas about what they're not able to teach, like this war on CRT and history, basically?
I am surprised, and I just feel like we've jumped back, like they've taken 50 years from us. We're starting over. I'm shocked, really. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the States has a lot of issues, right? There's a lot that they need to. I mean, we all do. I'm not just blaming on the States, because Canada does too, and probably several countries around the world. But it's shocking, really, to see how far we have come, and really, when you stop and think, we haven't come far at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to solve that solution. I don't know. There's just so many different mind frames. Like, how do we all get onto the same one? I mean, I think it starts with, like, I'll bring it right back to the beginning of this conversation. We are not different races. We are all humans. We're all from one race. And if we don't get that, we're always going to feel divided. And I just, and always going to have to, like, we can't do this and we can't do this, and, we shouldn't be doing this and we shouldn't teach this, like all this closed mindedness. It's just, it's going to keep us down.
Yeah. Well, like Derek said, we have to unlearn what we were taught, because and then we become conditioned to these things. And I personally, my own self, am taking away layers and looking at things in a different lens, because I thought a certain way because of the way I was taught. So,
for sure.
It's a lot of work to do. It's a lot of unpacking, but it's also if we can't look at the elephant in the room, then then leave the room, because we sooner or later have to face it. And as uncomfortable as it is, what you're doing, getting your teachers and everybody to have these conversations, that's how it becomes comfortable. Like we were all saying, it's a daily struggle. So let's keep on with the daily struggle so we can get through it. You know what I mean?
We have to. And, and our next book, just to throw it out there, is How to Be an Anti-Racist. So it's our next book, which breaks it down. It gives us solutions. So I can't wait to dive into that book. And, hopefully I'm going to try to, get a few more teachers in on that club. So,
so one little final question. So are you personally encouraged by all this cultural awareness that's going on?
Sorry. I am. And I feel like, you look around, and especially just around in my neighborhood, in my surroundings, my community, that sort of thing. I know that there's been, art festivals that have had, showed art that, and awareness for cultures and things like that. There's been, the multicultural festival that we have. There's the painted signs that they're putting, like at the whole street, Barrington Street, Brunswick, big section of Brunswick was painted, Black Lives Matter. Okay. You could probably see that from the sky. It was so big, and they, and then the the 2S LGBTQQ IPT plus, oh no, that, they had those, sidewalks painted, with the rainbow flag, and, there's like, rallies happening, if there's community gatherings for conversations. And, I am encouraged by the cultural awareness. I mean, I think, can we do better? I think we can always do better. Can we do more? Definitely. I think that, maybe some of these companies have to mandate this microaggression sort of style teaching, this professional development. I think we all need it. Every single, McDonald's, whether you work for the school board, whether you work for Ford, wherever you work, this has to be there, I mean, I think we have to rewrite our history books. I think, like you said, that whole unpacking or that whole reteaching, or that all has to happen. Trying to think what else can we do, right? I don't know. Again, we have to go back. We are one race. We should have never been taught to be divided.
Well, it all starts with people like you doing exactly what you're doing. So
you're doing it.
And thank you.
I'm trying.
To be honest, that's awesome, man. And thank you again for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. It's great conversations.
Anything you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I think we pretty much covered it all.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a lot more I could have said, just so you know. We'll have to do that another time.
Okay. We will. Definitely.
Definitely.
We'll do part 2.
Awesome, man.
For
awesome.
sure.
Yeah.
We're gonna hold you to that.
No, we'll become knocking.
Good.
And actually, I might drop in on one of your classes when you get feeding people.
You should. Well, it's funny because you say that, Jason, because when we were doing, I had the list of, prominent people from Nova Scotia, African Nova Scotians, your family's there, and, your grandfather, and, and I even said, I said, I got my friend is his grandson. I was like, we should get him on, we should get him on the line. So like, I might have you come in and drop in one of my classes. We'll do it virtually like this,
well, I'm actually coming back down in September for my Aunt Jean, who, she was on a recent episode. It's going to be her 90th birthday. So I'll be down in September. So
we should make that happen. We should make that happen. Your names come up. Your names come up a few times, with your spoken word connected to poetry and that sort of thing. So
cool. Thank you.
I'd appreciate that.
Yeah. I'll even do a poem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sounds like a date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
nice.
I want to say, our friendship goes way back, and I remember back then.
As Derek said.
Yeah, I remember back then just how cool and kind-hearted and funny you were, and you were always kind of a little bit of a trailblazer. Just the way you make everybody feel comfortable and at ease. So it's good to see you take that continue it in your life and take it into the classroom, showing these kids what you saw growing up and using it towards a positive things. All these things are very important that you're doing. You're doing important work. And the more you do it, the more gets done. And even just opening the door to these conversations is enough for people to walk by and look through. They can decide if they want to walk through, but something tells me that one day you're just going to be dragging people in anyway. So
True.
continue doing what you do and inspiring. It's very inspiring to see that you're taking your own personal approach to teaching, and each one should teach one. And you're doing that. So I'm proud to call you my friend.
Thank you. And likewise. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'll keep doing it.
Yeah. Keep on keeping on.
Breaking new ground, breaking new ground, breaking new ground, sip of breaking new ground, breaking new ground, breaking new ground, sip of breaking new ground, breaking new ground.
You have been listening to Down Home. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
Breaking new ground, yeah. On a high plateau, from the one down below to the future of the funk, getting lost in the flow. Contact with the spark magex. Now it's time to flex with the force from the soul, reaching all aspects, getting deep, no time to sleep. As you reach your next phase, laying it all on the line. New trails start to blaze. It's a fire inside, a brand new path, breaking down the sum to one. Feeling free, I just laugh with the joy of a beat boy, just kicking it live. A connection so strong, transcribe with the vibe like magic prescribed. Only to see the perfect blend, like a diamond in the rough, ready to drop a perfect gem. It's time to shine, so fine to see what you find. A revolution starts with the evolution of the mind. It's a rhythm of circumference that rotates around to the surface with a purpose. Breaking new ground.
Breaking new ground and flying high. Wanna keep living my life.
The song Breaking New Ground from The Breakdown.
I wanna live my life